Hey everyone, so for this video, I'm turning this little sketch of a hedgehog I did, adorable, I know, into this lovely little spring hog. Let's get into it and see where this takes us. So as in general, I always started off with my paints, just because this is a painting, so that's what we started off with. I also just like to do different layers with different things, so that's what was going on here. But one reason why I picked the spring hedgehog was I actually had created, so this is actually the first one of 4. So I actually a while ago created these 4 different hedgehogs. I had these canvases. So I was like, okay, what do I do with these? I liked hedgehogs, so I was like, you know what, let's do it. And my mascot and main character is also a hedgehog. That's actually where these colors came from. Was my 4 main characters of my Arlathea story are representative. Well, the main one is green, then we have red, orange, and white for like their main colors. So I was like, oh, so like season's greetings, pretty much. So I was like, oh, well, let's just roll with that. So then that's where these guys came up with, because I was like, oh, I'll just do little hedgehogs. Like, I think they're cute, right? So that's what I did. So that's kind of where they came from. I know, I like them, so yes, just there will be 3 more, at least, of this little series throughout the rest of the year, like for every season. So I know spring starts this month, so I was like, well, here. I'm like, this actually kind of works. So that's what we're going to do. So pretty much, because I'm also still trying to learn how to paint a little bit. Like when I was doing these, as you can see, I was kind of like doing strokes and almost kind of trying to like feather it out, I guess, like how you would do a marker. I was just trying to like learn how to like blend it some more, which overall was okay. Like I think I'm getting a little bit better at it while I'm like trying to like learn. So it wasn't awful. It's definitely better than some other things I've done. But we still have a ways to go for practice, but that's okay. Because we're getting through it. And some of these paints are actually like on the cheaper side, but I'm alright with it because I'm like, I don't need no fancy paints. Plus I got a whole bunch to go through. I will say though, it was easier working on a white canvas because normally I kind of work on a black one. I just like it because I'm going to paint it, the borders black anyway, so the white borders will not stay. I don't like white, I like black. I just think black looks nicer, and it helps make my color stand out more personally. So, yeah. But it's also my main character. These are her 3 colors, plus she also does have black as her 4th one. But I decided to stick with 3 for everybody, and I thought like blue and green kind of represented spring a whole bunch, because you know when spring comes, everything's turning green, everything's growing, that kind of thing. That's why there's flowers and whatnot. And it's also blue because it's sunshiny, the water, like that kind of thing in the rain. That was kind of what my idea was when I was making these. I was also trying to like do it in a way like layers. So what I was attempting to do was like these flowers right here, like yeah, I'm painting them, but later on they're gonna get kind of blurred out, which was the point. Because I didn't want them to be like a main focus. Like obviously I want my little hog to be more of the focus, and maybe some of the flowers that are closer would also kind of be like that. So that's kind of where that came from. Like you'll see as we go on, like kind of how I do it. Now, with his quills, because hedgehogs have thousands of quills, I'm not drawing thousands of quills. I'm not a realism artist. If y'all are new here, that is not me. I do, I guess you can consider it semi-realism. So what I did with, which I think actually worked out kind of well, was I just did strokes for his quills. So I kind of gave the impressions of quills without actually like doing quills. So I think it works. And then like with the flowers and the petals, that's why I was trying to do the strokes and whatnot, was again, just to kind of get some of the like flower texture. Like if you look at the flowers, they have like those lines in the middle. I don't know what the correct term is, but it's just the flower petals have lines in them. So I was trying to like kind of do that a little bit with what I was doing. Somewhat achieved, but I was also like kind of a little more focused with trying to blend it out a little bit better, which again, overall, I think I actually did fairly well on because of the way I was doing it. Because I would either kind of feather it out or I would like dab it in some areas just to try to blend it out. So I think it kind of worked overall for this. But I don't know, I just went with the flowers because again, it's spring, like you have flowers growing. So I thought the flowers would be a good choice to like a good background companion for this. And then like the little bits of grass in the ground and whatnot. And like some of the flowers you can see are kind of tiny, so they're growing. There is more I pushed further back, but those aren't a main focus. So I was almost trying to like blur them some too and kind of keep them dark. Because part of the background is a dark green. So that's where some of those flowers are. Like you can't really tell, which I'm fine with because they're not really a focus. So yeah, this paint was not good, but we were using it. It did its job okay. Not the best, but it's fine. But that's why some of it I try to blur out. Well, I guess quotes blur. Just to kind of push it back some, because that's what I was wanting to do. I was trying to write like different layers. So like later on when I go back in with the pencils, I was doing different colors for different areas just to try to help that. I think I got what I accomplished because I'm looking at like the final, like kind of farther away. So I think I got what I accomplished. I wanted the hedgehog kind of like up front and center and where he's a lot darker and more prominent than everything else. So I think that worked. Obviously, I feel like that light green is definitely what stands out the most between everything. I feel like it stands out more than the blue does, which is interesting because you think the blue would stand out. But I think it's just because the green is like so bright, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And the dark green flowers actually kind of work too, because you can still see them even though it's going to be against black here soon. But it still works. So I can't really complain because I did what I accomplished. I wanted. Even with like the insides of the flower petals, I think I was kind of going with like daisies, some wildflowers, and maybe, I don't even know, was it like bluebells or something? Whatever the hanging flowers are, that's kind of what I was going with. I think I actually really like how I did his feet and just kind of putting the color down because, and like even the way I drew them, I think actually turned out really cool. I don't know. I think those are some like the better feet I've done. Because I know they're not like normal hedgehog feet. Again, I don't care. Because I know normal hedgehogs, like the plain ones that you see all the time, only have, I think, 4 fingers and they're like their short ears. But I've gotten into a thing where I like to do long-eared hedgehogs because my mascot is a long-eared hedgehog. And I believe the long ears have 5 toes and their legs are a lot longer. So that's kind of what I was doing here. So I was like, haha. She does have a very long tail though, but I decided not to do it here. I still probably gave him a longer tail than what they would normally get, but I'm fine with it personally because I think it works. And I'm like, their little tails are so cute. So I'm like, obviously I have to show his tail. But yeah, so the tail also is an ombre because that's what I like doing for my main character too, is that she is an ombre effect. The rest of them, they sort of have an ombre in a way, but she is definitely like more ombre than the other ones. So that's what I was doing here. Like, I know the quills are probably not, they're not correct, I know that, but again, I was doing impressions, and I think the impressions worked, especially with how I was, like, highlighting them and whatnot. I think it works. Even for, like, the body and stuff, the way I was shading it, I feel like the way that, because I guess the light is, like, top right, essentially, is what I was going for, pretty much. So I think the way I was doing it actually works out really well. Even with the paint and stuff and kind of how I was laying it down, I'm like, I think it makes sense. Like, it works. So that's why it was kind of fun to do that. And I know that he's not completely correct, but I'm like, you know it's a hedgehog. Like, it's just my style, because when I was sketching him, I looked at him, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, that's how I would actually draw them if I did, like, the correct style of hedgehog, because my character, she's anthropomorphic. Like, they all are, except, well, 2 stories are all anthropomorphic. The other 4 have people in them. But it's like, if I did it normally, that's how I would do her, because I have my hedgehogs go another way as well, because I call them mutations. But I was like, for doing like, essentially like a more realistic one, I was like, this actually kind of works. So I'm like, this fits my style, and it still looks like a little hog. So I was like, I love it. So I went with it because I'm like, this is cute. His head's probably a little too big for his body, but I don't really care. And so the neck's also probably like too long, but I was like, you know what? It's my stuff. I'm going to go with it. I think it works for the way I do things. And I'm pretty happy. So that's what we did. In the way, honestly, the way I was doing his fur, like the dark green fur, I loved it. I thought I was doing so good, especially like later on with the pencil, with the way I was adding it, like even some of the paints here, because this is actually gouache is what I'm using right now. You can't really see the gouache all that much, but I like to do it again for layering. And sometimes the gouache actually does kind of come on very opaque, so it actually works. But I just like having it on there just for a little bit extra. Like, there's nothing wrong with adding more. Honestly, it's not really going to hurt anything. If anything, I feel like it adds it because it just helps. In some places, even because that dark blue I have on the dark green, I was trying to tone that down some because it was a really dark, it's like a royal blue or something is what I was using. So, because I like to normally use like indigo blue for pencils specifically for when I'm shading. But because it's a paint, I only have the royal blue. But so I just use more or less the gouache mostly to kind of control that royal blue some and kind of bring it back to more of a green color. So I was using greens for his shading, so that kind of helped. But I also needed to have the blue in there again because I literally just used greens and blues for this whole thing. That's all I was using. So when I was doing the sky, it was super simple. I didn't want anything super crazy, so when I did the paints the first time, I had like a light blue, and then I actually managed to, like, in this one area right here, the only area where it's actually supposed to be blended, I did manage to get it blended, which I was super happy with. And then I just went back over with the pencils again and did nothing like super crazy because I was like, I really didn't want to. But you can kind of see here, like, when I'm coloring the flowers after I finish, I actually go back in with a black pencil to kind of do the lines because I like to have lines in my stuff. And so these side flowers and anything I kind of want more out of focus, I don't put the lines in just to kind of help. Like, sure, there's white on them, but there's no lines like outlining them. So that's why I was trying to get like a bit of a layering effect too by just having things like either in focus or out of focus or something. So that's what I was trying to attempt. And the way I did these like little flower centers, I don't know, I actually kind of liked them. When I was putting down like the paint, I'm like, these are actually like kind of cool looking, like the way I was creating them. Because I think, I could be wrong, but I think the daisies have like very circular like insides. Like, I don't want to say pollen, but you know, where it's just a bunch of like little circles. I think is what that was. But obviously, I'm not going to sit there and draw thousands of circles. So I did more of impressions with kind of just essentially just like dabbing the paint at first, and then when I went in with the pencil, I just kind of darkened it up wherever the pencil was, or where the paint was, just to kind of give a little bit more layers and whatnot. Even the way I did these flowers here, like you can see where I'm starting to be able to blend it out more with the pencil, so it kind of helps cover up whatever didn't get blended the first time. And even then, I'm still using the blue in here because blues are decently good shadow, like especially my indigo blue. Like, I love using indigo for shading now. It actually kind of helps. And I did do everything twice with the pencil. I did it once with the first time and then went back in again just to kind of help in some areas and just add a little bit more. So yeah, everything in pencil was pretty much done twice for most of it. Even my little hog was done twice. So, but it's just the colors just work really well, especially because it is just a bunch of greens. They work so nicely together. I would say the dark green, though, for me is definitely like harder to work with because it is such a dark color. So I have to be careful. Like, when I was doing the pencil with like the dark green flowers, I actually used an olive green to help kind of control the blue some. And that's about as dark as I went because I had the indigo, which I was using for the hog only, just so the hog stood out a lot more from everything else because he was being darker. And then I just used the olive green just to kind of help fight the blue shading on the green flowers, which it did work. It helped. It's not completely gone, but I'm fine with that. It just helped toned it down more, which is what I was more worried about. But it works. So yeah, you can kind of see here where I'm just doing in like a little bit of shading. So now, as I'm building up his body, you can already see the body I've already completed. I'm like, to me, it actually looks really good, especially because I gave it like a very fur-like texture, which obviously hedgehogs do have. Because, you know, they got fur. It's hard to know sometimes, but yeah, they got fur and then they got quills. So that's why I was like, when I was putting on the pencil, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this looks so good. I was rubbing it a little bit just to kind of blend it out some because I do have a blender pencil, but to me, it doesn't really work that well on canvas. So I was using my finger a little bit and it did kind of help, but it was just like adding in these extra bits of color and just doing the fur texture like that. I was like, oh, it looks so good. So this is probably one of my favorites. But I think next month I'm actually gonna try and get him up in my store with like his little designs and whatnot. And probably like a poster or postcard print or something of him. And then we'll do like other items. But I think I'm going to, because technically he should be going up this month, but I didn't think about this till it was too late. And then I was like, you know what? I'll put him up in April, because to me, April is more of a spring month than March. Like, I know spring starts in March, but to me, April is like the starting spring month. I don't know. That's just how I feel. So I was like, oh, I'll go with it. This is also kind of perfect for St. Patrick's Day because he's green. Haha. I actually just thought about that. So this could be like a double for the St. Patrick's Day. So I think I'll make a post about that because he's all, you know, he's mostly green with a little bit of blue, but he's green. So it's actually kind of perfect. But yeah, so I was just going back in with the pencils here and just adding in some extra color with like some other random colors I had. Again, just sticking what was like aquamarine, this light aqua, and a parrot green. So still sticking in with like the blues and the greens. And I had this little peacock blue. Again, just adding in some more. Just to kind of give more of that fur texture I'm looking for. And just the highlights and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, he just turned out so good. I'm like, I love him. So I'm excited to do the other three. Because I'm like, I wonder if I'll be able to like progress. And see if I can do each one a little bit better than the last. So we'll see. But I will tell you right now, this one's going to be my favorite because he's green, and green is my favorite color. So I was like, this is actually kind of perfect for me. So I don't know where I'm going to put him at yet, but he's definitely my favorite. So that, yeah, so he'll be my little St. Patty's Day post because it's already one and done. But, we'll call him Clover. How about that? He'll be Clover. So I don't know, it just worked out so well. But even like when I was doing his eyes and stuff, because I know those were a little difficult, I think they actually turned out fairly okay. Because I did put that chartreuse screen down there at the bottom and then just kind of like layer the colors up. So it actually kind of worked out with the way I was doing it. And again, I was still trying to stick with that fur texture on his face. It was a little bit harder, I feel like. I mean, his cheek I did pretty okay with. But I think the rest of it is just a little bit harder because it's a little bit smaller, so I kind of have to be a little more careful. But even on his ears, it was okay again. They're kind of thin, so a little more difficult, but I still tried. And like the inside of the ear, I feel like the quills though were probably the weakest here because of how I was doing them. Like I don't even know what I was doing at this point, not gonna lie. I do go back in to outline them, but yeah, I'm not quite sure where the quills were going on this one. They were definitely going somewhere. That's kind of where he's at. So, but it's just the same thing. Just going back in down in this texture. But overall, I think he actually turned out really cute. So I'm like, oh, my little baby. I love it. Definitely my favorite. So he's actually reminiscent of another like little hedgehog statue I painted. So I'm like, I think that's actually kind of funny, just minus the black. Because generally the blue and the black would actually share the same space pretty much. So the dark green and light green have their own areas. But yeah. So, but again, because this wasn't exactly my main character, I just didn't want to add the black in. Because everybody else only has 3. So their colors, I think, kind of represent the other seasons, which you'll see at some point in time later in the year. But he's just the beginning. So just be aware we're going to have this little series now for the rest of the year. I don't know about next year, but at least this year I will. Just because I already have the canvases and the idea, so I figured, why not? But he was just fun to do. And just to get in some painting practice, because practice makes perfect. You know how it is. But I think overall, he turned out really well. So I was like, oh, my little baby. I love him. I just think he turned out so good. Yay. So here is the final. Look at him. I love him. I love him so much. He definitely is kind of neon looking here, which he actually is, and I love it. I love it. I can't. Because it definitely like helps with that green, with the greens and everything, and like having that neon, you know, lighter green and the blue just works out so nicely. Oh, and the different layerings that I was able to accomplish, again, it makes me so happy. But that is it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!